At last we meet. Finally, Chris, it's been a long time coming, man.
It's been a long time, and I'm really looking forward to it, man.
I have a question. Do you age?
Yes, I do, believe it or not. I do.
You actually look younger than me.
Well, I don't know how old you are, but I know how old I am. But no, I mean, yeah, it's 52 years flies by, bro. I'll tell you that.
I'm gonna have to check your birth certificate in just 1 second, man.
I still get carded.
Yo, and we're back. It's the one and only. At last, we are here. This has been the most requested interview on all of my YouTube channel for quite some time. And I'm finally glad to give all you fans the interview that you have been asking for. I am joined here by the one, the only, every Latina's Man Crush Monday. This man right here. Grammy Award winner, may I add.
Yeah.
Chris Perez, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm excited about today and tomorrow's event and to be sitting here with you, man. Thank you.
Have you ever heard the term MCM, Man Crush Monday?
I have, but I've never associated myself with that. So, yeah.
No, man. So, there's so much to unpack, so much to dig into. Really excited about having you here. So let's just get started. The name of the show is called Nothing Beats Experience. Obviously, it goes without saying, right? You have plenty of experience. How did it get started for you? How did your musical journey begin? When did you get bit by the bug?
I love music as far back as I can remember, and I think a huge part of it comes from the beginnings of it was my mother, of course, and thankfully she listened to a lot of different styles of music. It wasn't just one thing, so through osmosis I kind of picked up a lot of different sounds and techniques and whatnot in my head. So by the time I was maybe 10 years old is when I started learning how to read and write music. But in those first 10 years, I mean, my school was my mom, especially on weekends. She would do, when she would do her house cleaning chores, she would play like Tchaikovsky and different symphonic pieces, and that's when I got my classical trainings. And then in the mornings, on the way to school during the week, it was pop radio. So there was FM wasn't even really big back then, but AM station, there was one in San Antonio that played pop music, and I would hear that on the way to school, which disco was pretty popular at the time. So it was a lot of that kind of stuff. And then my cousin, who I would spend weekends with on my dad's side of the family, Kenny, him and his older sister, my cousin Tammy, they were into like the Cars and REO Speedwagon and Loverboy, like the first records those guys were doing. And so I would get my rock fix with them. As a matter of fact, my cousin Kenny's the first time I ever heard Van Halen, who is like my hero, was my cousin showed it to me, and I just was never the same after.
So from your recollection, what is the first song that you remember that was like, that you fell in love with? Like the first song that just made you go, this is it. If there was one song.
Man, I don't know if there's one song in particular. I go through phases. Like I will find a song, or a song will hit me in a certain way, and that's the only song I'll listen to back to back to back to back to back until one day it's just like, okay, it's time to move on, and then I won't listen to it again for a long time.
I think I'm the same way, but just in terms of like your musical influences, because I'm aware that you're a big fan of Van Halen, Iron Maiden, Ozzy, Kiss, you having such a rock influence in your musicality. It always tripped me out to know like eventually you went on to play Tejano music and everything. And we'll get into that in a second, but before I ask you that, I want to know, because obviously you're a guitarist, right?
Right.
Do you have a Mount Rushmore of guitar players?
I do, and I can rattle the names off. But before I do, I will say that like there are just so many. I don't think one is better than the other. It's just how they influenced me. That's how I would put them on that mountain. You know what I mean? And so of course, having said that, it'd be Eddie Van Halen would be my George Washington. Jakey Lee had me in a chokehold for a while. Carlos Santana, Nuno Betancourt from Extreme. Man, I could just keep going and going. There's Randy Rhoads, of course. And that's where I started, you know what I mean? And those are like guitar players. There's also guitarists that I really love and admire because of their playing, not so much that, but also because of their songwriting. And the other four that I mentioned, Eddie, Jake, Nuno, like
Santana, right?
And Santana, I mean, you know, they especially Eddie and Nuno, they're known for their songwriting as well. So, but then there's other guitar players like Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi, especially Neil Schon from Journey. I mean, those guys were huge influences on me in more ways than just guitar playing. You know, like I started to learn the craft of songwriting through guys like that. You know what I mean? And when I would hear Eddie, it was more about the tone and the playing and the technique and being a guitar player. And those other guys helped to open up the door of the songwriting thing, you know? And also, I think for me, it was a hang-up, I just thought a band should sound, the guitar should sound like Van Halen in a band, you know what I mean? In which I didn't realize at the time, being so young, I didn't realize how original his playing was. You know, I love the sound of it. I love how he played, but as far as how he played in the song, like the other, you know, the guitar solo might be 15, 20 seconds long, if that, but there's another 3 minutes to the song. And Eddie's doing some incredible stuff, you know, during that. And then that taught me the respect for the song. You know what I mean? So, but it was a long road to learn and to try to put the pieces together. And
so at what age did you realize that you were actually good at playing the guitar? like
I don't think for me, I know I can get the job done, but in my mind, to say that about myself, man, I'd have to be 10 times better than I am right now. You know, there's always that, you know, you do something and you move on. And you're happy with it, but you move on. I don't sit there and kind of relive it, you know, and it's cool when you let some time go by. Like the other day I was in an airplane and flying back from New York, and I hadn't heard my first Chris Perez Band CD in a really long time. Like I had played the songs live in different versions of musicians and whatever. I had played them, but I hadn't heard it. Like what I had recorded, what I had done, what we, I guess, won the Grammy for was that album. And I was on the plane, and I just popped it on like, all right, let's jam it, you know? And I sat there like freaking out on everybody's performances, just reminiscing on the process, who played on the record, you know? I mean, I had Sting's drummer, Vinny Colaiuta, played drums on the whole thing. I had Cheap Trick showed up, and they ended up singing background vocals on one of my songs. You know, Luis Conte played percussion, who's played with everybody from, you know, back in the day he played with everybody, you know, including Madonna and artists like that. So to be able to play with people like that, it just like, the better the musicians you play with, the more and the faster you grow. You know what I mean? Like, I like playing with musicians that are obviously way better than me, because that's where the growth happens. You know, if you're the best player in the room, man, it's kind of hard. You can grow in other ways. Like I can continue to grow in sitting in my studio or in my bedroom and practicing. I can grow that way. But as far as being in a room with other people playing music, like the real growth happens when you're playing with people that are just...
They elevate your game.
Yeah, and there's a certain understanding. You know, so maybe on that level, I think I'm good. Like my attitude is not, normally it's not about me. It's like, I want to hear you. You know, I want to hear you. I want to hear you. I don't necessarily need to hear myself.
Gotcha. And we'll get to the Grammy here in a second, but I guess let me rephrase the question. It was not so much when you realized that you were good, but when you started developing that self-belief, that confidence, that like, this is something I want to do? Did you form a band in school? Did you have like you know, where this story began in terms of like it being a career? High school, was it?
Yeah, no, it didn't really start until I got out of high school. And I started playing music, I guess we'll say professionally, which always sounds weird to me. Like I still, like it, you know, I play music. But and I'm fortunate enough to make a living at it. But back then when I was 17, I was still really self-esteem issues, self-confidence, things like that. I was one of those guys that, you know, if we were friends and you went to the garage and you heard our band, whatever band I was in at the time playing, I would let loose a lot more there and whatever, as opposed to being in front of people I didn't know. It was just awkward, weird, you know, because being on stage is completely different than sitting in your room and practicing, or being in the garage with your boys and, you know, and that took some getting used to. But I honestly, like, where I could really relax and be myself, I would say 100% was probably with Selena, with the Dinos, because that band was so, like all the bases were covered.
Yeah.
There was just a guitar spot that was open. So I got to feel that, you know what I mean? And to have the talent around that I had, obviously, Selena included, I mean, it just felt like butter.
Yeah, know? It was a group of, like I always say, it was a group of musical geniuses, in my opinion. You know, it was just, everybody was musically inclined. And I think that's why I asked you a little while ago, like, you having such a rock influence, did you ever envision eventually playing what is, you know, Tejano music?
No, it never, it happened by accident, you know, and in my mind, it was temporary. But, you know, but then things just started happening. You know, gigs started popping up with the bands I was in, and it made it harder and harder to get out. You know, because my dream was once I graduated from high school, was I wanted to be in a band and quote unquote make it in the rock scene. That was my dream. But there was no money really. I couldn't survive on just that. And so I had odd jobs. You know, I even worked in a library once for a period of time, and I would save up what I could, and on top of paying my bills, you know, I would buy my little pieces of gear here and there. But I never really felt like I couldn't compete, because all the other guys that I knew that were in my age bracket, they had the support, I guess, that I didn't have. Because my family, on my mom's side, nobody had ever made a decent living being a musician. And it scared the shit out of, pardon my French, it scared,
no, you're fine.
It scared, you know, my mom especially, because of the stories. You know, you see the movies of all the trappings that come with, especially playing rock, you know, unfortunately, what people think. And I'm not gonna lie, they are out there, you know, and there's lessons to be learned inside all of that as well. Some people can get away with it, some people don't. Some people get in trouble, some people learn hard lessons. All that was going on with me at 17, 18, 19. But at the same time, having the attitude of being invincible, I guess, as only a teenager can have. You know what I mean? When you get older, it's like, you know better, but back then it was like that. So the gear that I had was not up to par by any means to do what I felt I needed to do. And it was embarrassing to me like, why would I go out and play with all my gear that was sub normal, you know, and then there'd be other bands there with Marshall half stacks and all the latest electronic gear and MIDI controlled this, and you know what I mean? It was just like, it was, as a 17, 18-year-old, you know, it can be really scary and embarrassing to even think about putting yourself out there. So what happened was, I lived with my dad at the time. We shared an apartment, it's 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, whatever. And I was home one night, and I happened to be like I always was back then, I wasn't really out partying or nothing, I was practicing. And I was in my room playing along to a record and trying to learn parts and whatnot, and there was a knock on my door. It was my dad. And he was just standing in the door, when you can feel somebody has something to say. And so I stopped playing, I'm like, hey, what's up, And we just ended up having this conversation about, I don't know what it was. I didn't even plan it. I wasn't thinking this. I mean, I had been thinking it, but I wasn't thinking about, I gotta have this talk with my dad. It was just inside of me, this conversation with myself. But for some reason, when I was talking to my dad, I just started telling him. And the conversation was what I just told you, about being embarrassed. I don't have the gear. And I think I even said, like, is this all there is, man? Like, I just want to know, like, am I gonna just have odd jobs here and there and play music because I love it, like as a night gig, and that's it, and to his credit, man, there's a lot that has been, I shouldn't say there's a lot, but there's some things that I have said, about not having a dad growing up or whatever, but he was there when it fucking counted, man, 100%. And so he just, basically we had this conversation when I guess he saw the look in my, that I had and the way I was talking, and he said, well, what is it that you need? And I was like, I had never gotten that support, so I still didn't believe it. I was like, it's just way too much. Whatever. He's like, no, what is it that you need? Like, let's research it. Let's talk about it. Boy, I had catalogs laid out all over the floor, magazines, and and I made I didn't put everything on there, but I put the bare bones, what I mean, of what I would have, like what I needed to show up and do what I needed to do in front of everybody. And so I made my list of a few things, and he looked at it and he said, let's get it, and then just pay me back with, in time, like no rush, no nothing, whatever. And from when the minute that those pieces of gear came in, it was up. I was on an upward arc.
Doors started
from there,
opening.
dude. Yeah. And maybe the thing is that the hang-up was in me. Maybe I really didn't need that gear. So maybe there's a lesson to be learned there. But in my mind, that was my hang-up.
Yeah.
Maybe I always had that talent, but I didn't feel like I could present it in the right way unless I had that stuff.
Got you. So let's fast forward. So you talk about Selena Los Dinos and how that's where you felt the most comfortable in terms of your musicality-wise, right? Up to that point where you really felt not so much the most comfortable, but up to that point, yeah, where that was your first real, situation where now you're comfortable. How long did it take you to feel really comfortable with the band?
That happened pretty quickly because everybody was super cool. And I had also, in the band previous to that one,
Shelly, right?
Yeah, we had played a number of Selena songs. Like, that was her inspiration. I believe, like, the way I remember it is that was kind of what Shelly was shooting for. You know what I mean? And what she had with us. So I took those records home, back when they were still with Manny and whatnot, the Dinos. And I ate, I breathed, I slept that music. You know what I mean? And I listened to everything. And back then, it's a little different now. You have the record, and so you see all the credits, where it was recorded, even the address of the studio, and the lineup, who played what, who wrote what, all that stuff was on there. And so when I joined the band, I was already real familiar. It was like, and it was night and day because I used to play the songs with the other band, with Shelly, but then when I was playing them with the Dinos, it's like I had learned them note for note, like literally note for note. Roger Garcia, who's the guitar player before I was there, and Jesse Ibarra. But Roger, he, believe it or not, all those other guitar players I mentioned earlier, Roger's he's a huge one to me. He might freak out if he hears that, but I've told him, I'm like, dude, like I learned everything you ever did. I learned how you did it. I copped the sound because I didn't want to join the band and for it to sound, when they played their old stuff, I wanted it to sound like their old stuff. You know what I mean? I didn't come in trying to mark my spot or, you know, plant a flag, so to speak. I really wanted to show respect to what they had done in the past. But then when we started creating new music, that was when I got to bring some of what I do to it, but in a tasteful kind of way. You know, I'm not trying to squeeze Eddie Van Halen licks in where they don't belong or whatever. Like my main thing was the song, you know, and Ricky Vela, the keyboard player for the Dinos, he's like a walking encyclopedia of musical greatness. No joke, man. And I wouldn't be the guitar player I am or the musician that I am today if not for Rick, you know, in Los Dinos.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I've had an opportunity to speak to Pete. You know, I actually interviewed Pete, and, you know, he spoke a lot of great things about the experience that you guys had, the run that you guys had. And to our culture, right, I've always felt, you know, you have Elvis, you have Michael Jackson, you have the Beatles. To me, Selena y Los Dinos are in the same, cut from the same ilk in terms of just the magnitude. I know for you being part of it being, I don't know if you feel that way so much because you look back and you lived it. You know, you lived that era of music that you guys did, but to know that here we are, 26, 27.
It's been a minute.
Yeah,
dude, it's been, yeah, since I joined the band. Yeah, or since she passed, yeah, it's been about 26, 27 years, but you know, the years that we were doing those records, you know, the capital EMI stuff, there's a lot of really cool stuff that happened super fast.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just grateful to have been able to be a part of all that stuff, you know, because it was like for me, I know different members of the group would have different experiences of it, but for me, it was easy. It was easy to be in the room with that energy and that vibe, and whether things were drawn from me or not, I know that I drew a lot of stuff from everybody. You know what I mean?
And I feel like with you in specific, you have two versions of it. You have the musical side, and then you have the personal side as well. Because obviously you and Selena went on to, in my opinion, whether or not you signed up for it or not, kind of became like the first real power couple of our culture. You know what I mean? Like looking back on it now, it may have not been like that during the time, but like it's like a whole nother level. And I've thought about what I wanted to ask you when I got in front of you, and all I can think of was like, man, you know, like, you know, you hear like the Disney characters like Cinderella, Snow White, Ariel, Princess Jasmine. To me, Selena's all that and some, you know, in terms of legacy now. And you're Prince Charming, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you really are. Like, and I don't know if you ever wanted that responsibility, but you are beloved by the fans. Yeah. And I know you're appreciative of that, but kind of speak to that. Kind of speak to the high regard that people view you as, you know, being someone that was with Selena, you know?
Well, first off, I'm grateful because that's something that has to be, that the fans have to, it comes from them, right? So it's not anything I don't feel I have the power to perpetuate for it. As a matter of fact, I think it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And in the beginning, I mean, man, there's so much to say about all that stuff. You know, not to sugarcoat it, but when she and I first started getting serious, I mean, it was hard. There was a lot of shifting that I had to do emotionally and learn how to kind of navigate through certain waters. Like, you know, that's why I think there's not a lot of video of her and I, of Selena and I, like holding hands or hugging or being loving with each other or just acting like a couple, is because we had been kind of Brainwash seems to be too harsh of a word. Maybe, and trained sounds kind of messy. But the way that we had come up in it, it was like always, I felt always like in the public eye, keep it separate. So that's why there's not a lot of video around that now. Behind the scenes, of course, there was a lot of that when there wasn't cameras around, and not everybody had video phones, camera phones back then. So I'm sure nowadays, if we were going through what we were going through back then, it would be a lot different, and it would be documented on all kinds of platforms, right? So it was really hard at first, and it's funny because when it did come out that we were seeing each other, or that we had gotten married, or that I was her husband, she was my wife, it felt like the exact opposite of what it is now. In the sense that, like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of your viewers have seen, it's even on YouTube, like, you know, she's at the Hana Music Awards and she's thanking everybody, and when she thanks me, and I take this, you know, it's like, it's funny to me, you know what I mean? But at the time it hurt, you know, when she's thanking everybody and then she thanks her husband and you start hearing boos, you know, and then she flips it around like, oh, you wouldn't be booing it. And so, you know what I mean? So that is how it was back then, right? So it's the way that it is now, and I'm very grateful because that's something that I can't ask for or that I can't make happen. That's something that her fans have, I'll say, given to me, you know, because it is something that I'm very proud of, and it was a super loving relationship, and I'm very proud of everything that she's done, the woman that she was now, or was back then, and what she represents now, and what she means to everybody now. I mean, it means a whole lot to me. So I'm grateful for that they put me where they put me there, like you said. I'll just say they put me as the, you know, the couple, you know, you sit on a pedestal or whatnot. I'm glad for that, but it took, like, from her passing until maybe after the movie came out, to where I started realizing that people were starting to get it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't, and I take some of the blame for that, because I didn't, you know, I was very guarded. I didn't talk a lot about it. So how can I expect everybody to understand or to know what I was going through?
Yeah,
you know?
and I think too, because the reason I asked is that expectation level. You know, people hold you to this expectation level almost because you were in a relationship with Selena, but at the same time, like you mentioned, like, you know, you were guarded. You didn't vocalize a lot of what it was that you felt, and so, and I, for me, just personally, I would like to know, like, is it challenging or has it been hard? Because, you know, anytime you may go out in public, you do a public appearance, you hear of her, or people put, you know, pictures or share memories of her to you, and, you know, I know that it could be sensitive because, you know, at the end of the day, it's still someone you love that you lost.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to get your perspective on that.
No, that again, that's another thing that has changed. It used to be a drag, you know, but in all honesty now, like 100% straight up, now it's I can't say all the time, I won't lie, but 99% of the time, it's a happy thought. It's a happy, not a reminder because I live it every day, but it's a happy moment that I get to share with somebody. You know, it didn't used to be that way. Because it usually happens, it doesn't, every now and again it happens out of the blue, but more times than not, it happens at an event. Or if I'm at an event that, you know, so if I'm out and about, I kind of expect it. You know, it's a little weird when I'm in a situation where I'm not expecting it and then it happens. And it usually doesn't have anything to do with another person. It's more like, I'm thinking of, I'm in a certain mindset, and I'm out with friends or whatever, and we're eating, and then all of a sudden, Baila Esta Cumbia comes on blasting on the system, and it's like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of like, it'll get taken aback a little bit sometimes, you know. But then I look around and I see everybody's body moving and they're jamming, you know what I mean? And that feeling goes away real quick.
So let me ask you about the movie real quick. You know, I was talking about our culture, and I always say the one thing about, like, let's just say, for example, I say the culture, I'm obviously referring to Mexican Americans, Mexicanos, and Latinos in general, right? I feel like the movie is part of everybody's top 10 collection now, you know, and it's part of it's embedded in our culture now. John Seda, they did a phenomenal job of casting him, and I know that you guys are still friends to this day. Am I right about that?
Yeah, for sure.
How did you have anything to do with them casting him? Because y'all guys he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
you know?
Look, all I can do before I say what I'm going to say about that is that the way I remember it, right? Yeah. Everybody, I think, I've heard different stories of who picked who or whatever. What happened with me, the way I remember it, was they had a videotape that they made for me. And I'm pretty sure it was Gregory Nava, who we're also still friends, you know, Moctezuma Esparza, We Talk, you know, the producer of the film, you know, Jacob, the actor who played A.B. I mean, a lot of the people that were on the cast and the crew were still really good friends, especially John Staten and myself, obviously. But the way I remember that he got cast was they showed me the director of the movie had made a video cassette with, I remember 4 actors. Might have been 6, I don't know. And I remember one was Freddie Rodriguez, who I got to meet and we clicked really well. I want to say another was Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh, wow.
And there was another guy, I'm not clear on his name, so forgive me if I get it wrong. Is it Danny Lucci or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think I know that.
And then John Seda. And they were all like, I didn't know the script, but you know, when you're doing a read or whatever, an audition, you're reading part of what might potentially be the script of whatever project you're auditioning for. In this case, a Selena movie. So I had just seen I Like It Like That with John. And I just thought when I saw it, I thought there was an essence there that I wanted to be connected to. You know what I mean? And not really knowing that my pick was going to be the pick. Because I didn't know what the process was, who else they were going to talk to, if they were going to talk to anybody, or if my pick was actually that important, that whoever I picked was going to be the one. I didn't know that. So, having said that, it was John Seda. The next thing I know, I was in Hollywood. He was in Hollywood. They had set up a meeting at the Sunset Marquee. And as soon as we met and started talking, dude, it wasn't even about the movie. Okay. We just right away started talking about music, and I tripped out because he has the same musical taste that I do.
Wow.
And we start talking about Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and I'm laughing because John, when we start talking about it, he'll start singing, Rah! He'll start like singing like that, you know, whatever. He's hilarious at that, and he's actually a drummer.
Oh wow.
And now he's a guitar player. It's a really good one, you know. And I'm proud to say I started giving him his first lessons, you know, when he was doing the movie, and yeah, from then on we just hit it off, and it kind of took on a life of its own, I guess, and you know.
So I'm sure you've watched the movie. So what would you say? Because obviously when you go in this Hollywood process of making a movie, they consolidate the story, they make it an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes, and they wave the Hollywood wand over it, right? What would you say is the difference between the movie Chris and the real Chris?
Dude, I mean, look, I gotta take the fans' perspective on this answer, because I think the character Chris in the movie and the real Chris are really intertwined by this point. You know what I mean? True. But you know, it was again, I mean, I guess kind of going back to what you had asked earlier, you know, having to do with Selena and myself and being a couple and whatnot. Even during the making of the movie, Like I wasn't around. I couldn't, for obvious reasons to me, maybe not obvious reasons to people that don't know me, but I couldn't be around it. It was a few reasons. It was a heavy vibe. I was up to trying to find ways to cope with the pain, not feel the pain, and there was a lot of dark stuff going on that I was, doing, right? And so I think all of that combined, I couldn't go. I didn't want to deal with it, and it was even difficult sitting at a table with the family and the director and the producers and whatever and telling the story. Like, I don't remember talking that much. I remember them getting a lot of the things from the movie from the family, not me, because it was so, for me, it was difficult to relive and to, try to tell my side of the story. That was just my way of coping. And I understand 100% that not everybody is like that. To some people, I noticed actually talking about it and telling all these stories was 100% helpful to their healing process. You know what I mean? And mad respect to them for handling it the way that they did. I was in a different space. I felt like I wasn't ready to give yet. You know what I mean? And I felt like things were being taken at the time. And so I just shut down. I didn't talk very much about it. And it was just the way that it was back then, And interestingly enough, when we were in Miami for that event, it was a Billboard Awards show that it was that one that Jennifer, the J-Lo did, the tribute to Selena, where myself, AB, and Suzette and Rick actually were up there playing with her. I don't know if it was, I forgot what songs we did, but so we're in Miami, and the director, Gregory, was there from the movie, right? And so after we had performed, Carlos and I had, we got back to the hotel. It was a real fancy hotel. We went to the bar, and, the $20 drink, kind of fancy for a shot on ice, on the rocks. But so we went down to the bar, and we were just kind of recapping how the night went. And Carlos, he usually takes pictures, so he was showing me what it was from the crowd perspective and whatnot. And then here comes Gregory Nava, the director of the movie. And we're like, hey, what's up, Greg? Hey, hugs. And hey, you want something to drink? Yeah, what are y'all drinking? And so the three of us were sharing a drink, and we just started chatting it up. And he said, he was like, yeah, so we ended up talking about the movie, right? And I don't know how we got there, but we ended up there. And he said, yeah, certain, about the love, the relationship that Selena and I had in the movie, that there were certain people that wanted it downplayed, that were trying to put that down, which is odd because, as I was saying, I wasn't really saying much about it when the script writing was being done. But whatever was in the script at that time, back then, that there were certain people that wanted to downplay the love story and upplay some other things, and that Gregory told them, if we don't have a love story, we don't have a movie. And right then was when I snapped. Right then was when, in some ways, like, the me that I am now was born. Like, I got it. but it took all that time to pass for me to be able to look backwards and see it.
Understood.
You know what I mean? Because when you're in the middle of it, it's...
Did it feel intrusive at that time? Did you feel like it was like, not in a negative way, because this may sound wrong, but kind of exploiting some of your personal space? Because it's like, I don't want to relive this at the moment. It was at the moment prior to at that moment.
No, I mean, it's a weird answer because I wanted to, but the way I was feeling was I didn't necessarily believe that was going to make it a better movie.
Gotcha.
Like, it really didn't need to be in there because of how everything had played out leading up to that, meaning our relationship from the beginning to when it was found out about, to all the drama that was after that, to even during our marriage. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, I've never been one to try to ruffle any feathers or make any waves, so just kind of go with the flow. That was part of my thing too, so I just kind of kicked back and what happened, happened.
Have you seen the series at all?
Yeah, I've seen it.
What are your thoughts on that, if you don't mind me asking?
That's like a two-sided question.
I want the honest side.
Well, they're both honest. They're both honest, and I mean, that's the thing, is like everybody has their perspective, but I choose to look at it from more of a diplomatic kind of standpoint, and I think that's the best way. On the one hand, like, I think that it's from the family, it's Selena related, so it's helping to perpetuate, to push forward her legacy and the music and the story, right? On the other hand, in all honesty, not being involved, I think I could have helped, and to some, they might have their reasons as to why maybe they felt they didn't need me to be a part of it, and that's their prerogative, and at the end of the day, I have to be okay with that. I don't have to be, I choose to be okay with that, you know what I mean? Because in the end, it's all about Selena.
Correct.
And it's all about, again, what she stood for and what she represented, and she was all about family, 100%. So I try to, do my best at flying that flag because I know it helps push forward what she's left behind. Now that I understand the position that I'm in, which I didn't understand for a really long time, as far as the fans' perspective.
Well, and I appreciate you opening up and sharing this stuff with me, because I know that, like you mentioned, it wasn't always something that you felt comfortable doing. And I don't want to dig into any of the issues that may go on with you and the family, but I do want to ask one question. I will leave it here. If things could be different, do you wish would be different if they could be?
You're talking about with the family?
Yeah, with the family.
More than that, I think that one day, hopefully soon, it will be. That's my, that's what I put out in the universe. I hope that, things can get worked out, and I realize that everybody has their, but more specifically, that her family, we all have our cross to bear, and we all see things differently. And I just try to be as honest as I can in the whole situation through it all. And that means if I'm at fault, for anything, I'll be the first to admit it. And I would hope vice versa. And it doesn't need to be done in a public forum. You know what I mean? It's private. I still consider them family. I still love them. And I choose to put out into the universe that one day soon things will be back to normal, so to speak.
Hope so too, man. Let's go back to the Grammy. You know, I told you I was gonna bring it back.
Yeah.
You know, first off, congratulations on that. You know, I think that says a lot about you as a musician, and it says a lot about Chris and his legacy as well. Because, like you mentioned, prior to Selena and Los Dinos, you had aspirations to be a musician.
Right.
You had aspirations to be a rock star, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And you went on and lived the dream. You're part of arguably the most iconic, you know, singer of all time. And then you went on and you had your album, your success. How validating was it for you to be able to not compare it, because I don't ever want to compare it to your previous success, but to carve your own lane, have your own group, and win a Grammy for your body of work, and it bears your name, the Chris Perez Band?
Yeah, it meant, I mean, like, one, that was like an unimaginable thing that happened. You know, the people that I was, that were in the same category as I were heavy hitters, and all of them were inspirational to me in making my record. So to have that record I made alongside those other cats, and then to win it, like, it was awesome and it was fucked up, man. You know what I mean? Like, I was excited and I was happy, but then I was also kind of sad because it felt like a competition, because then people got upset. And what's odd is it wasn't the other musicians. Everybody, like, most of them I knew. We were friends, and they called me, or I saw them at the event and were congratulating me and whatnot. And so, and it was all cool, like, yeah, this is great, man, yeah. And then the next day, in the press, management from different camps or record label heads from different labels of those bands or whatever just started coming at me and coming at my crew, like, who's this dude? And like, his first record and whatever. And then I was like, oh. And at the time, I had really thin skin. You know, like, now it's a lot thicker. Things kind of bounce off me a little bit easier. But back then, it wasn't like that. So that hurt, you know, and it's like, I guess in that situation or scenario, speaking of the Grammy, it felt like I couldn't have my cake and eat it too.
Gotcha.
You know, and, you know, it's an unfortunate thing that that's the world that we live in. You know, I think things have changed a little bit more now, but back then, being that it was the first year that category was even entered into, and this was the American Grammys, I don't think they had even created the Latin Grammys yet. So, yeah, it was
bittersweet a little bit.
Yeah, but again, now it's changed. Now that all this time has passed and I get to look back on that, it's like, you know, F all those, you know, people.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think for me as a fan, like, I can say this proudly, like, I'm proud of you, because I think, you know, you went through a very difficult grieving process. Your whole entire life is being played out for the world through movies, you know, and your story's being told, and it's like, with all due respect, it's like, you're still your own person. And, you know, Chris Perez is still Chris Perez, and, you know, that presence that Selena has.
Yeah.
Very overpowering, and in a respectful way, though, right?
It's overpowering, but she keeps me grounded, believe it or not, because I still hear her. You know,
what do you mean you still hear her? If you don't mind me asking, like,
yeah, like, I can't say sitting here that like I hear her voice like she's right here talking to me, but I knew her so well that I hear her in here, like, you know, reminding me of certain things. And I hope this doesn't come across as too self-centered or whatever on my part, but also, like, how good I've been doing. Yeah. You know, and also sometimes I hear, trust me, I hear the other ones too, like, don't do that. You shouldn't have done that, whatever. Yeah. But I also hear the, like, thank you, you know, when it has to do with anything I might be a part of that is about her.
Gotcha.
You know, because, you know, it ain't easy all the time.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
And that's what I'm saying. And I mean in a respectful way, it's like, to win a Grammy with your band, to me, that's, I mean, everybody dreams of winning a Grammy, but to do it, it's
I know.
It's a massive deal, and it really, it's like, you know, it gave you more of your own identity that you already had, but it's like.
I think, yes, I'm very proud to have won that award, but I think above that, the validation and the pride, it's fucking hard, but the pride of watching, you know, my mom, my dad, and when that happened, it was like, you know, that was the kicker.
That's what it's all about, though, you know what I mean? So, appreciate you sharing that with me as well, man. Like I said, I mean, you know, you mentioned hearing Selena's voice, and without you digging too much deeper, what would you say is the one thing that you miss the most about Selena?
I mean, that's kind of like, you know, the private times that we had together when there was no spotlight or focus, and it was just me and her, and you know, it's the simple things: listening to music, being in the kitchen together, bumping into each other, trying to do the same thing at one time. You know what I mean? It's those little things that that you kind of take for granted, you know. But it would be the things. It'd be things like that.
You think she would love the hot sauce?
I think she'd be really proud. You know? But she would. She'd love it. She'd love it. She'd probably eat the hottest one.
So let's talk about the hot sauce. You know, you have your own hot sauce line, which is pretty damn cool. You know, like how did that come about? Like, how did that whole concept originate? And let's talk a little bit about your hot sauce line.
No, I remember clearly how it started as just an idea. I was my business partner, who's here right now with us, Carlitos, and John Gomez actually is my business partner with the hot sauce. And we started it together because there was no secret about the hot sauce, right? The movie, and just if you know me in general, you know I'm down with all the spicy stuff. But we went to this really fancy restaurant, and I reached in my bag and I pulled out my plastic H-E-B produce bag it was loaded with serranos, you know what I mean? And there I am, and I put it back, and I noticed him staring at me, but you know, I'm just doing my thing, and he goes, "Bro, you ever thought about, you know, your own hot sauce, whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't know how to do it. You know, what am I gonna do? Like, I know how to go into a studio and make a record. You know what I mean? I know how to write a song. I know how to play guitar. I don't know how to do the hot sauce thing." And he's like, "Let me look into it." And then from then on, it just started, you know, but it wouldn't have happened had he not done the majority of the groundwork, learning the process, including me in it. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of times that things just kind of happen and somebody slaps their name on it. But this is really a product where, you know, it's hands-on. Shoot, I was even in the kitchen, you know, mixing like a mad scientist, mixing different ingredients in different ways and talking about what flavors are we gonna go for. And then we came to a happy middle ground. And it was a learning process too, you know, FDA approval and, you know, just things way outside my normal everyday realm of thinking. And we learned it together and created the business. And then it just kind of, and then we started it, boom, went off like a bomb in a good way. And then the pandemic hit, right? So that we had a lot of these things coming down the pipeline that we couldn't close the deal on because of the pandemic, you know, and that, I mean, as did most everybody out there. You know, everybody's lives kind of just stopped, or what the hell are we gonna do now? How are we gonna figure this out? So there was some of that too, but I will say, had it not been for the hot sauce, I wouldn't have made it financially through and I can't even say we're through it 100% yet, the pandemic, but the hot sauce really, because I couldn't play anywhere, you know what I mean? I couldn't go anywhere.
Had it not been for the hot sauce, I don't think we'd be here today. So thank you to the hot sauce, you know?
Yeah.
So is the hot sauce available in stores?
Yeah, we have a deal with HEB. They have the red and the green sauce, which is, the red is Serrano based, the green is jalapeno based. And then we recently came out, well, not so recently, but kind of recently, came out with a habanero that is available along with the others. You can't get the habanero at HEB, but you can order it on Amazon. And you can also on Amazon order the red and the green. So you can order all three on Amazon.com. Or you can get them from PerezPepperSauce.com. You know, order them from there, and they'll ship it. You know, make sure they'll ship it out. Right? We're still doing that. Yeah, we're still doing
it. And I was hoping that you were gonna plug in the website, because that was gonna be the next segue, to plug the website.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what's next for you? You know, obviously you have the hot sauce that, you know, you've been moving. What's next, musically, business-wise? I mean.
Yeah, musically, I'd like to do another record, but I've been working on so much stuff, and we just started a production company. We're gonna make our first major announcement in the second week of August, 12th, 13th, somewhere around there. We'll make the first announcement of, the plan is to make the first announcement of our first signing, super talented artist. I'm excited. The way I like to work is like, I want us all to be a crew. You know what I mean? There's no, obviously there's gonna be some title, CEO and, you know, co-whatever and vice president and all that stuff. There's gonna be that, but as far as the artists go that we work with that are gonna be under our umbrella, you know, I want it to seriously, not just, a lot of people say it, but the truth is I want it to be like family, you know what I mean, the crew. Everybody works together. If somebody's working with an editor, you know what I mean, we all kind of try to include that person in different projects that we're working on, and hopefully one day to have everything in-house. You know what I mean? Blue Mariachi Productions. We've got some, I can't talk too much about them. We've got great series/movie ideas that we're working on, that people have come to us. That's on the video side of things. On the audio side of things, I'm probably gonna be one of the first, you know, under the Blue Mariachi umbrella to release my next solo album under that. So being that we work with so many people at this point, and I'm recording with so many different people, it's kind of hard. Like, I'm the type of guy, I found out recently, that I'm the type of guy that I'll sit down and be like, all right, Bob, because Bobo Gomez, he's another Grammy Award-winning musician, producer. I've known him since way back in the Cumbia Kings days, the Cumbia All-Stars. He's done work with a lot of other artists. Me and him, we have that kind of marriage in the studio. And I could sit down and be like, all right, the next song we write is not gonna be it's gonna be for me. I'm gonna write this song for me, all right? Okay, we're gonna write this song. Start riffing, start playing, we come up with these ideas, we start tracking it, and then we do like a really good sounding demo of it. And then it's like, maybe we should shop it to so-and-so, and Bob's like, well, I thought that was gonna be your song. I said, well, nah, but I think it'd be a lot better with. So as long as I have that attitude, I don't know when I'll ever get another solo record done, you know?
Yeah.
But we're talking about like, you know, we're landing them with major artists. Like I just recorded guitars for Nathaniel Cano, who is doing really well right now. Awesome. It's not out. And you know how it is. I don't know if it's gonna come out.
Sometimes they never see the daylight.
Yeah, right? Or it might be a B-side of something, so to speak. I don't know. But you know, cool things like that are happening. I did a track for Daryl from Run DMC. Oh, wow. Really heavy, and Cole Beasley from the Cowboys. Well, when he was with the Cowboys.
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, now he's with the Bills.
Yeah.
And you know, there's more than a handful of artists that I've been working with and happy just to play guitar. You know, I think you've heard I think the latest thing that's come out is the one with Signal.
Yeah.
That ballad. And then Victoria La Mala has another one coming out that we did. And I'm excited about that one too, because that one has Joe Ojeda from the Dinos. We've been writing a lot of stuff together as well, the other keyboard player.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's always a lot of fun. And working with Joe and with Babo, it doesn't feel like work. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun.
So, as someone that's had themselves portrayed in a movie, portrayed in a Netflix series, do you ever care to tell your story and have the beginning of time, all that story that you shared in the beginning about you being a kid? Do you ever care to share your story and tell your story on that level?
Yeah, I do, and I know it will happen one day. You know, and I'm real big on, like, I want things to look and sound a certain way, and it's not easy for me to give that up. You know, I've learned some lessons being a part of this artistic community, you know, and more so being a part of the music industry, the work part of it, you know. And I've done some things that I wish, musically speaking, I've created or been a part of some things that I wish I didn't do. You know, but I understand why I did it, and it wasn't for the right reasons. I made a certain record that was more of a Tejano kind of record, and I chose not to be too involved. I kind of took the easy way out. And although there are some original songs on there that I wrote along with John Garza, my vocalist, they weren't done properly, and I just didn't fight. You know what I mean? I didn't want to fight. I was just, in that point in my life, I was just tired. I mean, being the leader of a band, especially one like mine, it's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something that I had to learn to kind of distribute the duties of what comes with that, because I would try to do a lot of it on my own, you know what I mean, and it burned me out.
Gotcha. Well, I have a few more questions and we'll wrap up. Did want to ask you your thoughts of, you know, we talked about Selena earlier, about her legacy. When you see some of the artists paying homage to her, some of the current artists, how does that make you feel? I mean, you got to have a certain level of pride with that, because it's pretty cool. Like, I think I saw, I don't know if it was Drake or one of the artists recently.
Yeah, he had a shirt or something.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it makes me proud as a lifelong fan. You know, I don't know if I've shared this with you, but, you know, obviously you're going to be at my event, Centro Popular, which is actually named after my mom's record shop that she owned from the 80s to the 90s. So we distributed Tex-Mex music.
Yeah.
My mom was the one that would sell it. So I was very familiar with the catalog. And how does that make you feel?
I mean, it's always surprising, you know, yeah. but it makes me happy. I mean, anytime I see Selena anywhere, you know, whether it's on a shirt a celebrity is wearing or painted on the side of the building, you know, there's some beautiful pieces of art, you know, that have been created with her image. And to say, I mean, amazing is an understatement. How she just keeps carrying forward, and what she represents and has become that icon, you know what I mean, to so many people. But to see other musicians or artists, singers, whatever you want to call them, entertainers, celebrities wearing the shirt, I mean, it's always a pleasant surprise. Like, oh, okay, cool. Sometimes it's like, you know, I would have never thought that, but okay.
Yeah, I feel that way sometimes. I'm like,
what?
That's pretty cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Name of the show is Nothing Beats Experience. You have plenty of it. Advice you would give someone, young aspiring artist out there, young aspiring musician, from your experience, what advice would you give?
I would say just keep going, you know, don't stop. And it's not easy, you know, but if it means that much to you, just keep doing it. I mean, the name of the game for me is if music makes you happy, and as long as you're playing music, that should be good enough, right? If you want to make it then, quote unquote, depending on what that means to you, then that's a whole different, you better start getting your mind wrapped around the business aspect of things, because that's something I didn't do. That was something I had to learn out in real time, you know, out in the world. But you do have to have some kind of grasp on how the music industry works, or you'll be taken advantage of in a heartbeat.
You're not gonna say it, I'm gonna say it, you are a legend. And I appreciate everything. I appreciate everything you've done, not only musically for our culture. You've been a hell of an ambassador, and I just want to say thank you for joining me on the show today.
Thanks, brother.
I'm gonna tell everybody that now you're my cousin, because my mom's
like we're all cousins.
My mom's maiden last name is actually Perez, so you know
really?
There we go, family.
Right.
No, but thank you so much for joining me, man. You know, like I said, you've been the most requested interview on my channel, and I was excited to have you here and just so appreciative of you sharing your stories. So thank you so much. That, my friends, is the one, the only, your man Crush Monday, Chris Perez.
Thanks for having me, bro.
The ageless wonder may I add, you know what I mean? Thank you.
Thank you.